Hey, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Curation, Episode 9. I am Polydub, starting a mere 2 hours and 8 minutes late because, well, it happened. And as always, I am joined by Inquisitor 8.1. Say hi, Quiz.
Feels Batman.
Yes. And Jack from Bad Comic Reviews. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Oh, speaking of bad comic reviews, I ended up watching a bunch of bad movie reviews of yours.
Oh, yeah? How you enjoying my abandoned channel?
Well, it may be abandoned, but you didn't delete it. So it's abandoned but not forgotten. For those of you who don't know, Jack does have a bad movie reviews channel as well.
I haven't updated in over a year.
Well, yeah. I was watching... I started with Thanksgiving. The first one, yeah, the first one you told me about, which I was going to go get, but it was just too weird. Like just looking at some of the, oh man, that turkey and everything were just so, like I thought it was going to be a bad B film, not a weirdo horror film. It was just too weird.
I think B film is an incredibly generous assessment of their budget, and it was filmed in my home state of Ohio.
All right. They were after that tax benefit, were they?
No, I think they were just too lazy to go out of state.
Oh.
Well, that would have killed the whole budget. Gas money? Come on.
Yeah, well. So running as late as we are, which is, I'm going to say at least 21 to 22% my fault.
Yeah, let's go with that.
More like 70 to 80%, but that's okay.
Oh, hey, Pop-Tart's here, calling us bitches. That's nice. How you doing, Pop-Tart? What we're gonna do is Quiz wanted to set it off a night later, and then Jack pointed out what a bitch he's being. So we decided to we're gonna do well. Yeah,
not my fault.
There's just so much going on in comic book news, both good and bad and weird and funny, that we're going to do 2 shortened episodes. We're going to do one tonight and one tomorrow night, assuming that Quiz can find his balls and be here for it. You know, right?
Yeah,
right.
I have a job, blah, blah, blah.
I've got things to do.
I was actually life.
I had taken my dad out for birthday sushi, so you know it was that's what caused me to run late. And then of course,
did they sing to him? Did they put a little candle on the top of the roll?
Isn't that the most annoying thing? The singing at Japanese restaurants for birthdays, and they always have like their own custom song that they do, and break out the little fake ass Japanese bongo drums and. Oh my god, dude!
Then they start praying to their ancestors and some other Shinto crap.
Yeah. But you should have seen our waitress tonight, bro. Oh my god, Jack, you're an Asian woman. You should have seen her. Oh my god, cutest little thing. But you know, I'm sitting there with my dad. It's not like I can maneuver. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to cut all these sideways smiles.
Your dad should be okay with it. Just be like, "Excuse me, Dad, I gotta bang this out in the bathroom."
Well, Jesus Christ. No, I did.
I think your dad would say, "Go get him, Tiger," but that's okay.
You go, son. No, it was. I cut her a little wink on the side, and I was getting some side smiles. And when she gave me the receipt, she gave me the Asian happy face with the one winky eye. Have you ever seen
this? Slightly racist if you had done it, but awesome.
Well, no, but she did it.
Yeah, did she give you her phone number?
Well, no, but she circled that, like, you know. My name is, like, you know, it says your server was.
You got to go back there.
Oh, I'll be going back there. I'll be going back there. You know, you. So anyway, this isn't Polly's dating service. This is Comic Book Curation. And so what we're going to do is do one episode tonight where we're going to talk about some of the news stories that are going on, some good, some bad, some just funny. Do some really quick comic pitches. And tonight's extra important because it's the beginning of Miller Month. All October long is Miller Month. Frank Miller, that is.
For Polly, it is.
For Polly, it is. That's right. Inquisitor refuses to recognize the creative genius that is Frank Miller, and so won't be joining in Miller Month with the rest of us, which is sad.
He's okay.
He's okay. Well, you know, whatever. What are your opinions on Frank Miller, Jack? I don't think I've ever heard you.
Yeah, I like a lot of his work, but it's very stylistic, and you could tell there was definitely some sort of issue over the past like decade or so. Rumor has it that he's been drinking or something. It might be arthritis.
Stopped drinking.
Yeah, but it affected his art style is my point. And it made a lot of stuff look a little rougher than his old style. So you can tell there's a difference. And I like a lot of it on both ends, but not everything's fantastic. I just don't really get that attached anymore. I'm just too bitter and surly about these things.
Well, yeah, see, the thing about Frank Miller is that he, if you're a big noir fan, like in terms of like film and fiction, which I am, Miller brings hard-boiled noir things into the comic book world and doesn't turn them up to 11. He turns them up to 12 through his own bizarre amplifier.
He doesn't do noir. He does grindhouse. This is different. He does exploitation. He doesn't do noir.
Would it be noir is a misused term, but I think that people try and define it too tightly sometimes as well. Like I was watching a Razorfist stream where he was talking about it was one of his arcade streams, and he suggested that it's not noir unless the protagonist gets the shit kicked out of him.
Okay,
I think that's an element of that. Yeah,
I've got to do this. I've got to do it, guys. I've got to do it. I've got to turn on my camera.
Peter asks if Miller is the beer guy. On. No, but I hear you.
Polly.
Oh, seriously?
What do you mean by noir? The term film noir was coined by the French, who described a new breed of cinema they perceived at the end of World War II, when suddenly they were able to see several years' worth of American movies that had been barred from them during the Nazi occupation. The term derived from the name of a highly successful line of American and pseudo-American hard-boiled mysteries published by Galmard under the series title Série Noire. The series was so called because of the book's uniform black covers. The French saw the movies as being the cinematic equivalent of those books.
Sounds racist.
You know what? Something along the lines said, Itchy Boz just said, like, I don't know if he or she wrote this out themselves or cut and pasted off somewhere, but it's a pretty good single sentence description, I think. A genre of crime, film, or fiction characterized by cynicism, fatalism, and moral ambiguity. Yeah, those three things are definitely key elements. Like if you think about like Blade Runner being future noir, which it often is described as, yeah, it's all of those things. Cynicism, fatalism, and moral ambiguity. Yeah.
The real problem with the term noir is that it's French. And I think that's where we're getting hung up, because what the French consider dark and gritty is what we would call, normal.
All I'm saying, is that there's a gulf of a difference between something that aesthetically is a bit more like a noir, like Sin City, and actual noir like Double Indemnity.
Okay. Hey, Johnny Hellcat's here. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, Johnny.
Would you buy this? Frank Miller's stuff is more like a lot of detective tropes with noir elements peppered in.
Maybe.
Like, I don't think it's straight noir either. I like Miller's stuff. I'm not going to try and sit here and argue that it is. It's just got strong noir flavorings to it.
That's noir light. It's the Bud Light noir.
There's nothing light about Frank Miller. Shut up, man. Let me put it like this. Frank Miller's comics have balls to the point where some people think that it crosses over into the realm of being self-parody. It's got so much grit that it turns into gravel. And I don't mind that. I love his dialogue. I think it's laugh out loud fun. When I saw Sin City 2, A Day to Kill For in the theaters, me and my friend that went there and saw it, like, were laughing at the lines because only Miller can write dialogue like that. Other people could try. It's like, I woke up midair. The ground rose up and crashed into me. I felt ribs give way. And it's like, this is Miller par excellence, man.
Yeah, it's got like that pulp feel to it, that like dime store novel kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it works.
Two-fisted action.
Two-fisted action. I like it. If we already didn't have a wicked name, I would change the name of this stream to Two-Fisted Action.
Two-fisted in the action sense, not in the porn sense.
I was gonna say.
I love that meme so much. So let's run through some of the news stories that happened real quick, and then we'll get on to pitches. We're just gonna do a real short stream tonight. We hope the guys that are here are gonna come join us again tomorrow night, because Inquisitors gotta get off to bed. Let's see. Okay. Good news or bad news? What do you want first?
Never tell me the odds.
Well, hold on. Somebody went full Han Solo, and somebody said something I didn't catch.
I said I don't care.
You don't care, and nobody in chat has made a. We got 8 people watching. Nobody has an opinion.
Itchy Boss
bad
says
news.
bad
Okay,
news.
bad news. It is. All right.
Itchy wins.
Let's go over the. There it is. The Bounding into Comics version of the article over Mark Waid getting sued by Richard Meyer, aka Diversity in Comics, aka your boy Zach, over tortious interference in his contract with Antarctic Press. And the reason why this is bad news is because it's Bleeding Cool's version of events, which is so bad.
I think it's a different form of bad. I mean, it's the fact that it's a Bleeding Cool article, so you know that the quality is going to be garbage.
Right. It's bleeding into cool. Bleeding into cool.
Bleeding into cool.
That's perfect, man.
I do not think he's got enough blood in his body.
I always took the name as like Rich Johnson stabbed Cool and was watching it bleed to death.
It's like, man, you're bleeding all over my Cool. Like it's. I don't know. Like what's to talk about other than it's like really the article doesn't need to be. It can be summed up and doesn't need to be read because it's internet troll and hate monger extraordinaire Richard C. Meyer is engaged in a hopeless legal fight to try and sue the creative genius who is Mark Waid. That summarizes the article.
Yeah.
And what a lot of other people pointed out, well, some people pointed out and not enough people have made a big deal out of. I think that there is some. Rich Johnson is the creator and main author, editor-in-chief at Bleeding Cool, the garbage tier website to end all garbage tier websites. And that article is an attempt at making up for his own mistake, if you will. Mark Waid, in an interview on Bleeding Cool, bragged about what he did in getting Meyer's contract canceled.
Well, that's the cost of virtue signaling. Like, you run the risk of incriminating yourself. It's sort of like eco-terrorism. If you run around saying, yeah, we stopped those guys by blowing up their equipment, that's kind of what happens. You got to expect that.
And it's not just that he did it on Bleeding Cool. It's that he did it on, he, meaning Mark Waid, did it, meaning bragged about committing what is going to be defined as the court, in my opinion, as tortious contractual interference. Like, for those of you who don't know, Diversity in Comics, Zach, had his comic book Lost Souls set up to go. No, full-on graphic novel, wasn't it? Had his graphic novel Lost Souls set up, ready to go, and made a deal with Antarctic Press in Texas to publish it. Not just print it, but publish it, because he wanted it in comic book stores. Mark Waid, a third-party outsider who had nothing to do with the deal, just really hates Zach because he thinks of him as an oppressor of minorities, a serial harasser of LGBT POCs in the industry. Decided.
It sounded like it was in meter.
Yeah. It wasn't intended to be when I started, but it went there anyway. Out of his anger at Zach, called up Antarctic Press and pressured them into dropping the deal. And it's like, when you're not involved in a contract and you step in and interfere in it, especially through veiled threats and direct threats and pressure, you are engaged in what's called tortious interference. And it varies by state to state. And there's also a federal statute for tortious interference, and Zach is taking him through federal court because he of course lives in Texas, but Mark Waid lives in California, I believe, and so we're going to take this through federal court. Now Mark Waid, after doing this, like calling up Antarctic Press and said, hey, it's a great little publishing house and printing press you've got here. It'd be a shame if all of a sudden you started getting harassed and developed an image as a bunch of alt-right Nazis. You know, Zach has a pretty vicious reputation online. This was the basic vibe that he sent out. But this is what I did. I called it, do you realize the kind of alt-right troll that you guys are getting into business with? It's horrible. And sent out a tweet. I already have, what are the words that Mark Waid said in that tweet that he deleted and then closed down his account? I had a call into Antarctic Press earlier today. I explained I explained to them who they were getting into business with and the consequences of it. And I mean, that's gangsterism. That's, hey, you got a nice coffee shop here. It'd be a real shame if somebody came and smashed your windows.
I'm surprised you didn't go with a more apropos. You've got a real nice pizza shop here. It would be a shame if someone came and threw a brick through it.
Yeah. And it's like, with people like me on your side, we can offer you protection from, you know, if you line up with us, then we'll know you're part of the good guys side. And I mean, this is it's a Twitter protection racket. And Mark Waid forgot that Twitter's not the real world. Hence the original title that I wanted to go with for this stream. Twitter's not real, Mark Waid. Instead, it's wading neck deep in trouble, because to go around and then brag at comic book conventions when you're on panels that you did this and people's cell phone recorded you, and Zach could possibly have access to that, if Antarctic Press talks about what you did, and for you yourself to have talked on Twitter and in Bleeding Cool itself about what you did. Like, you admitted it all over the place. How are you going to go about denying this after the fact? Really, doesn't it just boil down to whether or not the court sees that as authentic by the law, tortious interference?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, like, if you go read the Bleeding Cool article, the comments underneath it are, Zach and his whole group of alt-writers can go get fucked. They said mean things about trans people in comics. And it's like, okay, did they? Or did they say that they're attempting to sell their minority status to stations above where their merit would normally grant someone? I think that's all they ever said.
Yeah. Makes sense to me.
But I mean, they're saying, like, this guy has no case, this guy has no case. To try and, like, I don't want to see Mark Waid broke. I really don't. I don't want to see him crushed financially. I just want to see him fuck off. I want a chilling effect out of this. Not that you're scared that you're going to get sued, but for the understanding that there are consequences to calling people alt-right Nazis all day long on Twitter.
Yeah, that's what and I don't give a shit about Mark Waid. I don't care if Mark Waid's in the poorhouse for the rest of his short life. I only care about in future, any of these people wanting to do the same bullshit from now on. Like, they have to know that, their actions have consequences. So you call someone a Nazi, you better be damn sure that they actually are a fucking Nazi.
Well, the suit is actually for two things: tortious interference with contract with Antarctic Press, and defamation and slander. The slander particularly is based around has connections and associations with white nationalist groups. Because that's a statement of fact. That's not like, I think that guy's a moron. Well, that's not slander. That's an insult, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make a statement of fact, like, I have associations with white nationalist groups, you better goddamn well be able to prove that, especially when you used that statement that you have publicly aired to interfere with this guy's contract over here. Do you realize who you're getting in bed with to do business, Antarctic Press? That's because that's an actual way of demonstrating how your slander leads to financial damage to me, which is claimed in the suit. So for the people that are saying this guy doesn't have a case, what don't you understand about the basic elements of this case? And I don't even mean on a deep legal reading. I just mean on a basic reading. Like, really what it comes down to is the court going to see that it meets the elements of civil liability in this regard? That's it. And as other people have pointed out, but I don't think nearly enough to these people that are saying, oh, there's no cashier whatsoever. Why? Because you don't want there to be one? Like, I was a strong fan of Sargon when he, before he did his thing with Aquila, actually. But it's like, Sargon, you put up her video and only edited it. You know, cut it. You didn't really add any commentary. You should have made it more transformative. I believe by the way you edited it and the title that you put on it, which was something like The Mind of an SJW, right? Mm-hmm. That is transformative, I would like to think. However, you have to be fair-minded enough to say, dude, you really ran a risk by doing that.
Wait, fair-minded to an alt-right Nazi? I don't think so.
Well, I just mean, like, I'm on Sargon's side on this, but at the same time, kind of like take a step back objectively and look at it. It's not like Aquila, actually, if she has, like, it's not like she has no case whatsoever and is completely frivolous. You posted her video and edited it and then put a title on it. You really should have taken your transformative thing further to avoid, like, you're right up to the border of what's transformative. You're taking a risk by doing that, Sargon. Well, and so she does that. She, you know,
what most people are overlooking in this case is that Waid has to prove that he didn't interfere because there's so much evidence of him virtue signaling and all that. But the court only has to see, is it more likely than not that he did it? It's a 51% whether Waid did or not. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a criminal trial. This is civil. Mm-hmm. So Richard just has to show that it's likely that he interfered with this. So he just has to cross that 51%. Is it more likely than not? And he's got his judgment. And I think it's going to get settled.
And that is what I would call a fair evaluation. What Johnny Hellcat here said, referring to Sargon, is a fair evaluation. It was dangerously close, but still fair use. Go read the Bleeding Cool comments. This Zach guy's a fucking Nazi. He doesn't have a hope in hell. That's like, are you fucking serious? Waid went everywhere and said that he did this. So what, you know, he doesn't have a hope in hell, meaning what? Wade's going to say he was fucking lying his face off all over the internet?
That's the problem, is that people don't understand the law, and they don't understand, because there's been no consequences for name calling for a long time. So they don't know that you can actually get in trouble for this if you start screwing with people's money.
Hey, Chaos Eve is here. How you doing? Yeah, and there's the thing. Twitter kind of like, it's a weird hug box safe space echo chamber for people. No, like, it's not the real world, and like, it has consequences fucking around on there, not just in terms of saying mean things, but when you say things like Jane Smith is an alt-right Nazi, that can affect her employment. That can affect, like, that's the kind of slander that you're actually, like, these are statements of fact if they're being made. And like, did you know that she belong to this revolutionary white nationalist group plotting acts of violence? That can fuck your life up, and it's a statement of fact. Do you even know that?
Well, and Myers has the money now because of his Indiegogo to pursue this, which is going to cost him probably 50 grand. But if he wins, he's going to take Mark to the cleaners pretty well. But and Wade's worth about $2 million. So,
well, Uncle Ethan has some pretty funny things to say about that on his streams, which make me laugh. It's like, when you look it up on Google, his net worth is listed as 2 million. But then again, I looked up my net worth and I'm worth 16 million. And that's not even close to being true.
Mine's a negative number. Totally true.
Oh yeah, I'm in the red too. Yeah.
My debts far exceed my assets. I just think that because you think that, we were talking about this, Jag and I, before we went live, it's going before a court, a federal court, and saying, this guy says mean things that I don't like and criticizes comic books in a particularly mean way. Okay, Mr. Waid, and what does that have to do with you interfering with his legal contract over here? Like, they're unrelated items. Mm-hmm. Your lawyer, who he got, what's his lawyer's name?
Mark Zaid.
Mark Zaid is defending Mark Waid. I love that.
That dude is nobody to fuck around with either. He's a good lawyer.
Dude, dominant federal lawyer. Like, holy shit. Like, yeah.
But Zaks Lawyer has more experience in this area. because he's an entertainment lawyer and he does contract law.
Johnny's asking, how do I look that up? Look what up? Like the actual legal papers? I can put that link in chat if you want.
I'm not going to say they're on Kiwi Farms, but if you happen to go there.
Yeah, I can put the web archive for the Bounding into Comics story, and within it is a link to an archive of the because they're filed in federal court. So, and
yeah, it's
luckily we live in a Western court system where it's open courts, not closed secret courts. So, you can go look at them.
Yeah, if you want to actually download it, you're going to have to either write to the Justice Department or go get it somewhere else, because the screen thing they've got on the website there is just a read only. You can only flip through it.
Oh, Johnny's like net worth. Okay, if you just go on Google, although I recommend you use an alternative search engine, DuckDuckGo all the way. If you just go on Google and you search for so-and-so net worth, it'll give you Business Insider or some other half-ass person's estimation of someone's net worth based upon IPs that they own and movies they've done. And who knows if it's anywhere close to reality. I think they're pulling those numbers right out of their ass. Like they said about Ethan Van Sciver, he's worth 16 mil. Ethan Van Sciver says he's worth nowhere near that, even if he sold everything that he owns and calculated all of his royalties right up to the end of when life expectancy is for an American male. Like he said, I'm still not worth that. So I have no idea where they got that number from. And it's
the way he eats pie, that's going to be a little shorter.
Yeah. I think that so what do you guys say? Is this going to entrench anti-Comicsgaters or cause a chilling effect of, oh, fuck, to anti-Comicsgaters?
I'm optimistic and hope that it will cause people to shit their pants before calling people Nazis.
As a cynic, I disagree completely. I think
that's a contrarian. You were contrarian is the word you were.
No, I'm a cynic.
Okay.
No. So when Wade settles or loses, because his lawyer's going to want to keep him out of a courtroom desperately badly, because he's got known history of temper tantrums. So once it gets resolved and Myers most likely wins, let's be realistic, it's going to make them entrenched further in their ideology, because most of these people already don't like America because it's a cis white heteronormative patriarchy or whatever. And this is just going to show that the government is pro free speech, which is hate speech, blah, blah. And they're going to get angry about it and say how the government is helping them and abusing them. Yeah. Helping people like Meyer and abusing the real progressive people who are on the right side of history.
Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Rakita who practices law in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Rakita Law is his channel's name. Yeah. And he's done interviews, and he did handled a, I'm going to call it semi-quasi barely debate between Uncle Ethan and who was it? Some guy who claimed that he was like not a fan of Comicsgate. He was a webcomic guy that said web comics is Johnny Hellcat says he's worth 950,000, but granted, it's not me. Well, somebody who matches your name ain't the same thing as you, bro. Shit. There's somebody else out there named Rudiger Dubbenstein, and he's worth this money, so it's got to be mine. How do I get access to that? But Mr. Rakita, who is a practicing attorney, showed up on and has his own practice, and showed up on Ethan Van Sciver stream to talk about this, and he did a 41-minute video evaluating it. For all of the YouTube lawyers out there, people offering opinions about there's no way he has a case. This guy's an actual practicing attorney. Why don't you listen to this guy? And he offers a very balanced evaluation of the situation. One of the things that he brings up is it might not have the effect that people want it to have, because a very likely part of a settlement, which I can absolutely see this case going to settlement, is a non-disclosure agreement for all parties concerned, meaning Zach will not be speaking about it and can't. And so it'll die a quick death, which is exactly what Mark Waid's lawyer, a lot of the reason he would be settling is to shut this up fast. And the way you do that is, here's your money, non-disclosure agreement. Now we're all going to move on.
Yeah, but even if there is just a settlement with NDAs, it's still a settlement. Waid still loses.
Don't you think that our boy Zach would not settle for something like that?
Well, Rakita did bring up a point. There may be an aspect of this that Zach wants a public apology, which can absolutely, like a retraction, as it were, an admittance of guilt, which is a common thing in lots of civil cases where you have to admit responsibility for what you're being brought to court over, and then everything else is NDA'd. It depends on what Richard Meyer wants here.
See, that's the thing, okay? And if I can give at least a little bit of armchair, take this for what it's fucking worth, which is not much advice, your boy Zach, don't do that. Do not do that, because that means that Waid will learn abso-fucking-lutely nothing.
Like take the NDA?
Yeah, well, he will quote, he will apologize, but he'll do it in a roundabout way, like they always fucking do, and he will not learn a single goddamn thing and continue on with this absolutely reprehensible fucking dipshit behavior.
Okay, do you really think Wade's going to learn anything either way, though?
No, he won't. But this case isn't for him.
No, of course not.
But other person calling people Nazis.
So wait a minute. What are you saying? Zach wants to take him to court no matter what to have the whole thing?
Yes, I think that Zach, after successfully raising all of this money, he has legal means and the money to do so, to bring Waid and drag it out. Just drag him through the mud to show these people that actions have consequences. I don't think he'll settle. I sincerely hope he doesn't settle, even for something as juicy as an apology from Mark Waid. Fuck Mark Waid. It's not about him.
Would not the wording of the admittance and apology be part of the agreement?
No.
Like this isn't some SJW demanding an apology and then you give it and then they say, fuck you and your non-apology. Like it.
I don't see that, happening. And Waid will immediately, he won't learn anything from it, and he'll go back to doing what he normally does. That would be a victory for Waid.
Well, like I said in Umbrella Guy's chat a couple days ago, if it were me and he did give a public apology, that would be at the end of every one of my videos.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
That's kecky as hell. Yeah, that's.
I mean, I think Quiz is right. Any apology he does give is going to be half-assed at best, just enough to skirt contempt charges.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you raise an interesting point that Mark Zaid is, unlike his client, is no joke. He's a very serious attorney. There's no question. What I find interesting about that, and a few people have talked about it, is this guy is either Waid has a fuck ton of money, or his only contractual relationship with Marvel is not in fact only contractual but employee based.
Well, even in a freelancer contract, you can have legal fees covered for you for being an idiot.
Fair enough. And Rakita brings up that it was interesting. Him and Uncle Ethan got into this debate back and forth where he says, no, you don't understand, Rakita. He really is just a contract employee, and I know how contracts look in the comic book world. And he said, no, I'm not even saying that you're wrong, and I accept that you have experience in that matter. What I'm saying is courts will view contractual relationships as employer-employee relationships depending on a number of factors, meaning are you expected to turn in a certain amount of work by a certain date, and you're going to be given such and such a financial recompense, i.e. payment salary for that work? They are going to consider that an employer-employee relationship, regardless of what you and your employer chose to call it.
Yeah. And it really does come down to the discovery phase. Is they can ask for his employment contract with Marvel. And if it comes out that he is an employee of Marvel in any sense or perception of the term, Zach can go after Marvel then. Because I would guarantee you, I would put money on it that Marvel is paying for this lawyer or has him on retainer, because he's done work for the comic industry in the past, and he's high power. I don't think Waid can. If Waid can afford this guy, then he can afford to pay a settlement.
Well, the thing that's interesting about that, and a few people talked about this, and Rakita himself pushed this idea. The settlement option is going to be the better option because of one thing. Zaks Lawyer is no slouch. If you look at his record, he's 35 years, done a lot of copyright law, done a lot of contract law. He's no idiot. And one of the things that Zach said previously is, I've talked to lawyers about people slandering you, and these are people that just like, suing Rubble Girl Perez. She has nothing. There's no way a lawyer is going to take the case because just they have nothing. Like, what's the point? It would be a censuring, if anything, But when Marvel's involved, even peripherally, it becomes okay. There's the deep pockets to go after.
Well,
and it's
not even that, but Wade's also a Disney employee,
right? And who's, of course, and Marvel is a subsidiary of fucking Disney, who's in the middle of closing a merger with fucking Sony. Like,
if they end up dragging Marvel and unlikely but possibly Disney involved in this, that will make real news channels. This will be more than just your bleeding cools at that point. It'll be CNN might pick that shit up.
Well, CNN can.
Yeah, they're good.
The thing that I find, okay, you took the words away until you started talking about CNN, and I've just got they sold their credibility so long ago.
Marvel's getting sued by an alt-right Nazi.
Well, an alt-right Nazi, but Comicsgate will hit the news.
Yeah,
and it's like, we're going global, boys. Like, it's
that's the last thing that Marvel wants, is for more attention being drawn to Comicsgate. I guarantee you, if there is a settlement, and I think that's the likely scenario, it'll be because Marvel's like, Waid, knock it off, settle this. You're making us all look bad.
Yeah. And like, dude, like a $200,000 settlement, like, is just for them is nothing. Can you imagine how many legal disputes Disney as a corporation is involved in right now? Can you imagine?
Yeah. And the longer this goes on, the more money it's going to cost, because you got more legal fees, and it's going to look bad, and the bad press. And Mark just got that job at Humanoids as creative director or whatever it was called. So,
and keep in mind, this is the guy who wants to write a Superman movie, Mark Waid.
Well, yeah, you know how much he get paid for that?
Is he gonna start every day at in Humanoids by screaming into a phone and throwing it on the ground and crying?
Well, people, okay,
maybe.
Rakita, as Rakita pointed out, like, Mark Waid is not, he's emotion fueled and is definitely suffering Trump derangement syndrome. Like, if anybody is, him and Ren Famous and the Twitter mob are definitely suffering. But he was smart enough to delete his entire Twitter. At least it's not available. Some of the spicier tweets he sent out were archived, but as a overall thing, no, it's not available. However, it is discoverable through the discovery portion of this legal proceeding around this. Is like the amount of things that this guy called me. It's like, he called me an alt-right Nazi, and he's been slandering me forever. Where was he doing that? Well, he was doing it on social media, and therefore we will be subpoenaing Twitter Incorporated for those records that they have to hold on to for X amount of time, even the deleted tweets, because it's still in their servers. Oh my God. Does Marvel not want that? Does Disney not want that? Because it's like, one of your employees, well, he wasn't an employee, he was a contractor. The court said it was an employee. One of your employees was tweeting out, what? This guy's a Nazi, that guy's a Nazi. And there's the chilling effect, if you ask me. How did you guys, Disney will be asking Marvel, how the fuck did you guys not have a social media policy? Don't you realize that we just canned some guy of some multi-billion-dollar IP for cracking pedophile jokes 10 fucking years ago? And now we got one of our subsidiaries employees running around calling everyone Nazis. Oh, did you know it wasn't just him, that like all of your employees are running around doing this?
Well, it could be even better than that, because Marvel, as employees of Disney, is my understanding, they are all signing the social media policies of Disney too. So Disney has a very strict one, and that means that a lot of their employees at Marvel would be in a whole lot of trouble, because once it leaks out, anybody that Waid talked to about this, their private messages could come out. I'm betting Zach's got the owners of Antarctic Press ready to get subpoenaed, And they're going to talk about if Mark Waid said, "You know who I am? I work for Marvel Comics." Boom, Marvel's involved because he just said, "I'm a representative of Marvel." And that would be hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, hey guys, I got a tweet from Donald Trump today. Did you?
I don't know. Somebody was raping my phone earlier.
What? You didn't get the tweet?
You didn't see that?
You didn't get the presidential emergency tweet?
Yeah, somebody,
okay.
some lady online said that it was raping her phone. Hold on.
Oh, really?
I downloaded it because it was so awesome.
Do you know that it's like outside of comics what we're talking about? Just the Trump derangement syndrome, and it's like he's raping my phone. I went under hashtag presidential tweet. I think presidential emergency tweet or whatever the hashtag was. And Dr. Eugene Gu, MD, you know that guy?
No.
He's like one of the Krasensteins. Like he's just like the guy makes a living. Like he's an actual medical doctor, as I understand it, and he sued Trump for something and won. And so that's his claim to fame. And he's an absolute sufferer of Trump derangement syndrome. He's the embodiment of it because he's a medical professional that spends all day, every day. Look him up, Eugene Gu, G-U.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, he's nuts.
All day, every day, multiple tweets. Donald Trump is going to kill us all. He's ruining everything. And the one he sent out like 3 or 4 tweets under the hashtag for this presidential tweet and said, you know, if Donald Trump decided to become a dictator and somebody hacked this system, he could easily brick every phone in America. That's a medical professional who sent that out, guys.
Yeah, because that's how technology works.
Yeah, it's just anyway. We'll just
hold on. I'm gonna share this real quick.
All right.
My phone was assaulted by the Orange Menace. I feel violated. If it's just a test of emergency broadcast system, I get that. But to make it a presidential alert in my space, he's raping us through technology.
Oh my God!
Raping us through technology.
The science granny. That's her name, Science Granny.
That's awesome.
Does she love the science? I bet she does. I bet she loves the science.
She loves the science.
That's cool.
I'm surprised you guys didn't see that. Oh my God.
That's priceless. Oh, so I said bad news and good news. Let's talk about some good news for a second here. I'll present myself. If you guys haven't heard this is great news. Mask of the Phantasm back in theaters.
Hell yeah.
Hell yes. I am down for this. I am excited. I will be there. November 12th, guys.
Nice.
For those of you who haven't seen Mask of the Phantasm, it's the first feature-length Bruce Timm animated feature following the really successful and much beloved Batman the Animated Series. And it is good from beginning to end. The art looks the animation style looks just like the animated series. The score is incredible. It's under 2 releases now, the original score and then the archival edition of the score by Shirley Johnson, I think is the composer's name. Anyway,
Shirley Johnson.
What?
Shirley Johnson. I don't know. Sounds like a penis reference.
It is. And stop calling me Shirley. If you're into film scores, this is one of the few truly outstanding animated film scores. They went full orchestra and it was worth it. The story's great. And so if you haven't seen it, what a great time to be. Oh, and it's been remastered in Blu-ray. And the new edition has come out. And so it's going to be a sharp, clean, fantastic one. I'm surprised Quiz isn't more excited about this. This is your thing, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I've already seen the Mask of the Phantasm in theaters.
Oh.
So, I've also
have you seen remastered Mask of the Phantasm in theaters?
No, but I also saw Killing Joke in theaters. I also saw was it Frozen? Is that the name of it? The Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero. Yeah.
Oh Jesus! I thought you were talking about like Let It Go. That thing? What are you talking about?
No. The Batman animated feature length movie that had it was all about Mr. Freeze.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing on November 12th. I'm going to be there. Select cinemas. If I have to drive to get there, I'll be there.
I'll say the one thing that I want to bring up, though, is news from the New York Comic Con.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to bring up, but that's cool. I'll close that tab and you can talk about it.
It's right here. So the one thing that I've got to say about it is the fact that it's not voiced by Tara Strong. That's the one thing that it's just it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
You've got a few seconds to stop this before I get a copyright strike.
So yes, this was the Jesus. Come on. You're not gonna besides, there's no audio, so it's transformative.
Come on, you've already been a victim of a copyright strike, haven't you? Why aren't you working? I know why you're not careful, because you're not on your fucking channel.
Sharing the love. Wait, does that say that it's Kaylee Coco or whatever her name is from Big Bang? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's who's doing the voice?
Yes, and I think she's doing actually a really damn good job.
For those of you who don't know, that's Penny from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. And later on here, you can see that they have Poison Ivy as well. So, yeah. It's
that looks like 2 lesbians in prison. Wow.
It's
yeah, man.
They're definitely going for a more adult theme too with the animated series. So
well, yeah, lesbo prison scene. That's
it's gonna turn all orange as the new black with some scissor action in there.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for this. I'm hype. I'm hyped as fuck. It looks great.
Who did I tell last week that our show, except for the cussing, is pretty family friendly?
I don't know who you lying to now.
Because I was scared of my thoughts, and I thought, no, we cuss, but I don't think we ever really.
Maybe you guys are family friendly. My videos are family friendly, but live stream, sorry.
I forgot who it was. Somebody asked. They said, my older sons, they might enjoy this comic book material because they're really into comics. Is your stuff family friendly? I think that's when I was over on Ranting Monkey's stream, and I said, yeah, except for the cussing, it's fine. Ever since you were talking about prison lesbo scissoring, like
we're just preparing them for the inevitable discovery of women in prison movies,
right?
Like Cage Teat 2 with Jewel Shepard.
I was gonna say there's a whole plethora of movies from the 70s that you will eventually discover in your life.
Well, Chaos Eve brings up a good point. What's wrong with scissoring? It's just like what are you? We're LGBT friendly here.
Yeah.
Right.
It was Jenna P. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's right. It was Jenna P. It's like Jack said though. It's like I don't know who you were lying to last week, but why were you doing that?
Right.
So you covered the animated universe stuff, and we talked about Mask of the Phantasm.
My only piece of news is Ranting Monkey shouted us out on Lords of the Night tonight.
Awesome.
Shouted out whom?
Us.
Oh, cool.
Because I said I was going to be on your channel tonight in chat, and he read it out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I'm going to do, I heard, I know I talk about Razor Fist a lot, but if you're not watching Razor Fist, you're missing out on some great content. But his stream partner, Taryn Gell, said, remember to like, share, and subscribe, like in a comedic voice like that. And Razor Fist said, you know what? 10 years on YouTube, and I'm proud to say I have never unironically said that. And I thought, well, fuck you, man, with your 160,000 subs and awesome patron and wonderfully generous super chatters. We're not there. So chat, remember to like, share, and subscribe unironically.
We're desperate. Come on.
Yeah, if you enjoy the material, like it. And I don't mean just like, is it really so hard to go on Twitter and just say, hey, check out these guys. They're 3 dudes that are totally family friendly, talking about comic books and other pop culture with balls, man, with balls.
And give me money on Patreon and buy my t-shirts on Teespring.
You should actually check out his Teespring account. It's pretty good. He got out ahead of us, and it's very jackass humor. I like it. So we're doing a shorter stream tonight, and we're running up close. So let's switch right over to pitches and get the hell out of here. And we'll be back tomorrow night. And Chaos Eve has hinted that she might be on tomorrow night. So we'll have it won't always be a sausage fest. We'll have a lady here, so that's cool. That's cool. So who wants to go first?
You do.
Haven't I gone first already once?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, Mustafa said I recommend the Razor Fist Dirty Harry series. Absolutely, and any one of his comic book series, actually. Yeah, but his Dirty Harry series is actually, I think I like the Death Wish series more than the Dirty Harry series, even. But anyway, we're not here to talk about awesome '80s films. We're here to talk about possibly '80s comics.
I'm always here to talk about '80s films.
Great.
Okay, I'll go first. Fine, because it is Miller month. Let me just get my comic up here. I didn't want to just, like I said, it's Miller month for me, which means it's going to be Frank Miller comics that I pitch all month long because the man is a creative genius. And instead of going with something a little more pedestrian and predictable, Holy Terror all the way. This is Frank Miller's controversial, heavy air quotes, graphic novel around a character named the Fixer, who you see over there on the left. This is done in full Frank Miller style, like that he went into after Sin City. Some people joke that Miller started drawing Sin City and then never stopped. He really has gone through a number of transitions in his art style. And this is representative of the kind of the way he draws now. Very impressionistic. It's not anatomically correct. It's meant to be. It's meant to make a stark impression. There's lots of paint splatters and brush work. All of that artwork being done by him, including like a lot of the heavy inks. Even though he doesn't ink everything, he does half of the inking. You see the teeth flying out sideways here in like a straight line, which a lot of people have made fun of. And it's like, yeah, well, what don't you understand about Impressionism? This story started out originally with him working for, when he was under contract at DC Comics, and he wanted to write it as Batman fighting Al Qaeda, and the story was going to be called Holy Terror Batman. There's a little disagreement over what happened next that led to it not being published as a DC comic and not being a Batman story. Frank Miller himself said, the longer I wrote it, the more I realized this isn't a Batman story and I don't want it to be. DC Comics said that they split amicably with Miller on this subject and everything's fine. And then people who just hate Miller because they think of him as a bigot, racist, sexist, said he got fired by DC because they weren't willing to touch this comic book with a 10-foot controversy pole.
Well, wait, hold on. There's one major problem with all of this, though.
What's that?
There's no way that Frank Miller could have made a Batman Holy Terror book.
Because somebody else used the name?
In 1991.
I mean, it was called Holy Terror Batman.
It was Batman Holy Terror.
Well, totally different.
Miller's
totally
name
different.
Miller's name was Holy Terror, Batman off of the Burt Ward, like Gee Willikers or Holy Shit Snappers Batman or whatever the fuck, right? Like it, well, you know, whatever. Like it,
what?
Let's be honest. It would have been Aloha Snack Bar Batman. And yeah. That's probably why they didn't want to do it. Well,
I can tell you why. Going over to the comic here, it becomes very clear very quickly. Miller was asked about this in, what was it, 2006? No, 2010 was the date of the interview, and he was on a panel in a small comic book convention. They said, so about Holy Terror, and Miller didn't quite hear the question, and he said, I'm sorry, what was the question? He said, Holy Terror, is that what you're asking about? The person goes, yeah, and he gets the mic up close and he says, I have no regrets. It's like, well, why? It's because he outright says that it's propaganda, the kind of propaganda where Bugs Bunny and Superman used to punch out Adolf Hitler. It was after September 11th. He lived in Manhattan at the time. It really affected him strongly, as it did a lot of people that took him in both directions, to become liberal progressives or to become hawkish neocons. You know, Frank Miller reacted in the way of strongly patriotic, is the way he described it. It's just strong patriotism, is that my homeland, my country was attacked by people who want to see an end to my and my countrymen's way of life. So I wrote a comic book character where they go after Islamic terrorists with no punches pulled. And when you see like the opening quote, if you meet the infidel, kill the infidel, Muhammad, there's no punches pulled. It's very strong. The Fixer, the main comic book character, I think you can see the art in this, is very impressionistic, page after page. And you know, here he is going around town, minding his own business, meets up with the lady, they have this conversation, and then the page I'm going after is when they're having their conversation, they're fighting, so it's sort of like a Batman Catwoman thing. They kiss, and then that's all, and then the bomb goes off. That's it. That's all. It's kaboom. Nails exploding everywhere, masonry nails. This is the September 11th moment that happens inside the book. The air burns. There's no warning at all. Classic Miller narration dialogue. The Fixer then goes on a mission to find the people that did this. It's like, you're attacking us because you're attacking our way of life. And then a superhero stands up and does the vigilante thing that you would expect a no punches pulled harsh vigilante to do. Do I actually think it's that controversial? It's honestly, unless you're a touchy-feely person that sees Islamophobia under your bed at night, my answer is going to be no. Hostel, the film, is more controversial than this. Any given Quentin Tarantino film is more controversial and violent than this. RoboCop is more violent than this.
No.
Can you fly, Bobby?
Frank Miller's RoboCop or the regular one?
Well, Frank Miller's RoboCop might be coming up later this month in Miller Month. Because for those of you who don't know, Frank Miller wrote and actually has a bit part in RoboCop 2. They totally changed his original script, but whatever.
They're like, we can't put all this gore in here.
Well, all the gore and the idea of like, so there's this drug lord named Kane who's turned Detroit into a hellscape more than it was before by promoting this drug named Nuke, and then they take his brain out of his body and put it inside this robot mech who goes around. Like, wow, yeah, Frank Miller wrote this. I'm surprised.
May have been some drugs involved.
Miller's awesome. Yeah, don't read it if you're faint of heart. If you don't like hard-boiled stories, don't read it. Quiz and I have an ongoing debate over whether Miller's hard-boiled or noir or what he is. Or
I'm guessing DC didn't want to publish this because of the timing of Dark Knight 2. Do you remember that? Are you guys old enough to remember September 11th? I mean,
yes, I remember September 11th.
Dark Knight 2, I think it was book 2 or 3, was supposed to come out that week. And then there's a scene in it where Batman's flying like a Batwing into a building.
Yeah.
And they had to delay things. I don't think they changed it, but they had to delay it.
Well, I know that they only got, I want to say like maybe a couple of weeks out of the first Spider-Man trailer, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because
on Tower 1 or whatever.
Well, what he did is he built a web to catch a helicopter between the two towers.
Yeah.
I could see people like it. Things when this comic were talked about, because I mean there was a good space in time between when Miller started working on it and when it was finally published. A good length of time, because you know it's like Miller at that time, it took a long time to finish anything because reportedly he was drinking heavily and just not turning out material very quickly. So it's like what, 2-3 years from the time he announced it to the time it was finally published. It took forever, but that had really spread into there was the post September 11th time where patriotism was what it was. It's not what it is today, where people constantly like everything is Islamophobia, and somehow being Islamophobic is somehow saying something about Islamic terror is a real thing that really needs to be looked at, is somehow related to racism. And it's like, yeah, but Islam isn't a race. And then the whole thing, I mean, it's become a lot more touchy-feely than it was years ago. And
yeah, but you can see why DC didn't want to do it. They had already had one controversy with them regarding vaguely Islamic stuff. And now we're in a war in Iraq, and he wants to release a book about fighting terrorists with a Batman-like character.
Right.
And they probably were like, all right, we got a lot of crap last time. Let's just part ways.
And especially because the kind of what I would call Miller a culturalist. I don't think that that's unfair, that all cultures are not equal. He is very proud of Western culture, and he is an American exceptionalist in terms of his worldview. And an unapologetic one at that, and it's arguable whether or not that's even something that needs to be apologized for.
Why? I like not having smallpox, polio, and living in air conditioning. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And a pretty strongly functioning democratic republic that has built into its system things to fix the bigotry of its own designers. Well, that's a pretty great system. I mean, if you think about it, that's pretty fucking good. And
that's exactly what a racist would say.
Well, yeah, but
people
started looking backwards at things Miller had done before, especially when 300 came out. And I'm sure a lot of people here listening have seen 300, the film, and the way the Persians were depicted. It's like, you know, the all of the Greeks, but especially the Spartans, were depicted as you know, the smart ones, and you know, you have the narrator of the story saying the world's last chance for civilization, for reason, like where the Persians represent chaos and the might of the sword over everything else.
They were murdering a bunch of people as they cut their way through Europe.
Well, that's exactly what a racist would say, isn't it?
You can't use my words against him.
That word means nothing anymore.
You're like the kind of guy who points at centuries of Islamic incursion into Europe when someone brings up the Inquisition.
Yeah, God forbid we talk about the Byzantine Empire getting invaded, setting off the Crusades.
See, I knew the Crusades were going to come up as soon as I had mentioned centuries worth of incursion into Europe.
Deus Vult, Holy Terror.
But the Alan Alda had polio? What?
That explains why his head looks weird. I can't see the chat because my bandwidth is going crazy.
Maybe he did or maybe he didn't, but Johnny Hellcat just wrote Alan Alda had polio, and I was like, okay.
Well, he can have my share too.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So anyway, I mean, did he legit have polio? I don't really see how it relates, but
when he was a kid.
And the way I went, fair enough. Well, Alan Alda is a pretty liberal progressive. We should ask him what he thinks about his views on the Western world and so forth.
And his views on vaccines.
Well, yeah, right. In any case, the people accused Frank Miller through the graphic novel 300 and then the movie 300 as it being Western propaganda and post 9/11 propaganda about the West versus the East.
What?
It's like, whatever, man. It was
about Spartans and Persians. What the fuck does that have to do with Islam?
That's obviously alt-right code.
It's the dramatized Battle of Thermopylae, like heavily dramatized comic booky Battle of Thermopylae. And the Iranian ambassador even said, this insults our Persian past. And I was like, your Persian past? First of all, the Persians weren't a bunch of Shiite Muslims. You know that, right? Like, I don't think they do. They claim like a Persian heritage, and it's like you realize they wouldn't really agree with you on like most things. You know that, right? Like,
hate facts.
In any case, the Miller has no end of problems with these. And then one time he was at a comic book convention and was asked, it's like, do you have a love for do you have a problem with Eastern culture? And he goes, Middle Eastern culture. And he goes, look, all I can tell you right now is that I'm speaking into a microphone that never would have been a technological product to come out of that culture.
Well,
damn, Frank.
Not wrong.
He's not wrong. It's
no, Walter, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole.
Well, I've pointed this out before. In the Middle Ages, Baghdad was the center of learning. One of the first recorded cataract surgeries, because they were able to make needles fine enough and lenses sharp enough for the magnification to be able to do cataract surgery in the Middle Ages. The numbers 0 and Arabic numerals were largely developed there. That's where Aristotle's philosophy was survived. My point
comes from India. They were just preserving information they stole from other cultures.
Well, my only point is just like, would it never be a product of the culture of the last 400 years since the rise of fundamentalism Islam? Yeah, most of the things that were in the heyday of intellectual Baghdad would have never been allowed today, because it would have been. You know what I mean? So the problem is what's wrong with Islam. The problem is what the fuck went wrong with Islam. That's the question. You know, it's an authoritarian culture, I think, is like, no, we're way outside of comic books. So enough of my blabbing.
You brought up Frank Miller.
Yeah, well, I got the majority of the controversies out of the way for the beginning of Miller Month. So from now on, it will strictly be talking about the man and his comics, and we can work backwards.
You're lying again.
Yeah.
Why do you lie to you and me in the same sentence?
What? What are you saying? That I'm lying? That there will be no more controversies?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Frank Miller.
He's just a controversy magnet.
Yeah. Well, okay. It may come up from time to time, but the reason that I put up Holy Terror to begin with was to get it all out of the way to begin with. That's why I said the quote controversial one. Let's just talk about it, get out of the way, and then we'll move on to other stuff, especially his early Daredevil stuff, his incredible stuff with Batman. The list goes on. And though Quiz refuses to admit it, the reason why Batman looks the way that he does, 90% of that is thanks to Frank Miller. Otherwise, we'd all still have Adam West Batman crawling sideways up a building with G. Willikers.
Jim Aparo, whatever his name is. One of the greatest Batman artists of the 70s.
But him as the grizzled man, as the embittered dude, the guy who finally made sense of the relationship between Batman and Robin, so it wasn't like weird teenage sidekick. He actually incorporated it into the Bat mythos, so it makes sense that he would recruit other children into his cause. Well, okay, we will talk about this.
That sounds so creepy. Anyway,
you're making Frank Miller sound worse.
What are you talking? Not at all. It was brilliant. Bruce Wayne is an insane man. He spends all day in a bat cave dressed up as a bat hunting down other costumed individuals. He's obviously quite crazy.
I disagree. I think it's a calculated move. It's like propaganda.
But it's in a very particular, well, in Frank Miller's vision, it's like this guy was traumatized early in childhood. Obviously, his parents killed in Crime Alley. You know, Joe Chill did what he did. And Batman, in a need to live out his need for revenge, sees kids that were around the same age as he was recruitable into his one-man war on crime. And through this way, cathartically can reenact vengeance that he was never able to reenact by empowering Jason Todd and Dick Grayson and so on to fight in a way that he was never able to. He's living out his pathology.
Hey kids, got some PTSD? Join Bruce Wayne's training club.
As opposed to what? He's got him around because he's got kids around because he's a pederast?
No, because he wants to pass the mantle on. Doesn't necessarily make him like a cult leader. He's just like, all right, well, this kid's gone through kind of the same thing. Doesn't mean, you know, we can't. He'll be more likely to want to take up my mantle when I'm inevitably killed or retired.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you pulling that from?
Legacy. Well, it's kind of logical, isn't it? Like he has a legacy he wants to pass on.
I think you're taking guesses. That's not a clearly laid out mythology for Batman. And I mean, that's a fine guess. Him
being a pedophile, but that's also being implied in a lot of cases.
And like I said, Frank Miller's the person who laid out a clear mythos for Batman.
And I'm laying out a different mythos. The one,
and as soon as you publish it in a highly influential comic book series,
it's already been done. Lonely Place of Dying, the first Tim Drake storyline, that where Batman and Nightwing were having a confrontation right after the death of Jason Todd. They were talking about legacy and family. And
okay, you know what? I can't debate you on that, but as Miller Month goes on, I'm going to read that, and we'll revisit this issue. I want to read that.
Let's start with the death in the.
Yeah, Miller. I actually am going back and reading Death in the Family. I was thinking about using that as a pitch, but I'm not finished with it yet, so I'm not going to pitch it. But Miller's first Batman story was Wanted Santa Claus, Dead or Alive, written by Dennis O'Neil for the DC Special Series number 21 in the spring of 1980. Okay. There's when he actually gets on to do an actual Batman story, it isn't until I believe it's Dark Knight Returns, isn't it?
And comes out of the gate by writing Batman's death story. So he hit the ground running faster than anyone
All
ever
I gotta
has.
say
Nice.
is that infinitely more influential for that and sets the tone better is Death in the Family, and he had nothing to do with that.
What sets the tone for what?
For Batman from here to ever after.
Yeah,
you think Death in the Family sets a more influential tone than Dark Knight Returns?
For Batman's interaction with Robin, yes.
Yeah, first interaction with
his interaction with Robin. Why? Yeah. Because he was beaten to death by the Joker? Spoilers.
Put a spoiler alert on a 30-year-old story. hey, guess what Vader is to Luke? Jaws is about a giant shark.
Well,
so you were talking about how Miller was the one that changed the dynamic between Batman and Robin so that it's not pederasty anymore. Death in the Family did infinitely more to change that.
I never said that. I never said that. No, I didn't. I said, what else is there? And in reference to the people who've cracked 1,001 jokes around Batman being a creepy old man, I said, what else is there? Pederasty? That I didn't say that he was a pedo. Well, I said that I referenced a long-running joke.
Running joke for a long time, but there have been books called Family. That's how it was always viewed previously, especially in the 70s. Like Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, they were all considered to be family, like because they were technically his kids in a way.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was like so much like a cult recruitment as it was like these people are like me. They're my adopted family. And I'm going
Are you kidding me? He calls like young Drake retarded and makes him eat rats. It's definitely an indoctrination.
And that wasn't Drake. It was Dick Grayson.
It was Dick Grayson, yeah. But we saw what happened to Dick Grayson.
Miller. And that comic is not a Batman comic. That's a Crazy Steve comic.
And what happened to Dick Grayson in the end? He turned into a crazy man who dressed up like the Joker with all sorts of genetic manipulations and ended up killing a lot of people and tried killing Batman too.
Wait, are you talking about the end of All-Star Batman and Robin?
No, I'm talking about Dark Knight Strikes Again.
Okay.
That's actually what happens in Dark Knight Strikes Again.
In Dark Knight Strikes Again, when was that published? I wonder.
Hold on.
That was the one I was talking about. That was in like 2001.
Well, Frank Miller. Good job, Frank Miller, ripping off a story.
Hold on, I got DK2 here. Let me just flip open to.
If that was in the 2000s, then that was totally ripped off from a Batman Beyond movie, The Return of the Joker.
Why doesn't it have the date? It's got like all the executive artists and this is my first printing issue of it too. Where the hell is it?
Oh, look at that! Oh, Batman Family from the Dollar Comic line. Oh my gosh, that's from the 70s. Look, because you could tell by Huntress's outfit and Dick Grayson's Robin outfit. And
all right, you know what, guys? You're pissing me off. Yeah, it was 02. Dark Knight Strikes Again was 02.
Well,
there it is.
Hold on. When was Batman Beyond Return of the Joker?
Okay, you know what? Tell you what. I want to read this story that Jack talked about with the fight between,
I was in 2000
following the death of Todd. I want to read this.
Yeah, Lonely Place of Dying.
Okay, and we will revisit this issue again. because Miller month is a full month, so we don't need to debate it out tonight. You guys got pitches.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that it's in canon to be that extreme. I think that's a very I would say a little excessive of the dynamic that somebody's trying, almost fanatical interpretation of their dynamic. I think if you wanted to look at it with a little more, a little bit of an outsider perspective, it looks more like he is simply creating proteges as opposed to being
as I said, he was I never said that they were copying him. I simply said that he was influencing people. And as I said, no one has influenced more.
Well, there's different ways to influence people. I mean,
and I will go through every Batman comic since then, and I will point out all of the Dark Knight Returns influence. We only need to look at like 89 Batman all the way up to Batman v Superman to see all of the blatant things ripped off. For Christ's sake, it even thanks Frank Miller in the credits of Batman v Superman.
Well,
it's just, you want to talk about influence.
Golly, you cannot say that Miller influenced more people when the person that gave Miller his first drawing job drawing Batman was Dennis O'Neil, who had way more Batman under his belt and had way more stories.
What does X have to do with Y? It's like saying that, Todd McFarlane had never drawn Spider-Man before, therefore he had no influence?
Considering that Dennis O'Neil continued to write Batman long after Miller stopped.
You guys are talking past each other because the point of contention is the Robin and sidekick influence.
It is
not the fact that Batman was the way Miller wrote Batman was influential. That's without a doubt that the way his style came about influenced a lot of the way the Dark Knight is done. It's the whole Robin fanatical aspect that I take issue with.
Okay, you know what? Like I said, I do want to read this because I would be arguing out of ignorance, and it sounds interesting. I want to see the interaction following the talk, because I've read A Death in the Family, of course, and I want to read that which follows it. That's really interesting. So we will revisit this issue as Miller Month for Paulie continues. I can't believe there's still 11 people listening to us. Fuck you, people are patient. I mean, you guys are awesome. I love you.
Hey, let's watch this train wreck with three retards arguing over some guy named Frank Miller.
I don't even know who Frank Miller
is. Really dumb. They're down in the weeds arguing about Batman and Robin's gay lovers. It's like Bert and Ernie all over again.
Poor Far. She's like, I come into Batman being a pedo. Wow.
Batman's not a pedo. He's a father figure.
Okay, I think he is a father figure. I think that's a fair description of him. But anyway, we need to move on, and let's not talk about Damian Wayne. That's a whole other.
Yeah, fuck that shit character.
Damian Wayne is terrible.
There we go. 1, 2, 3. Quiz Polly Jack. Fuck that character. Fuck him.
I liked it. Personally, I like Jason Todd's return as Red Hood too. So
nope, fuck that character. I've called the 1-800 number so he would die.
We have to get out of the weeds.
No, we don't. The weeds are beautiful and protect us from others. Animals hide in them.
No, see, Jack, the reason why I like Jason Todd being the Red Hood is because who doesn't like a good heel turn?
I just think it's lazy.
We're 15 minutes over an hour. This was supposed to be 45. Guys, pick your comics.
All right.
We still have to talk about the really important leak for Star Wars 9.
I don't give a shit about Star Wars.
Well, I know you don't, but there's a very, again, we're using this word a lot today, controversial leak around Star Wars 9. Both Jack and I have heard about it, so we'll just have to
Well,
go ahead, Quiz. What do you got for us?
I'll pitch here. I'm pitching one. Penciler John Byrne, inker Jerry Ordway, David Barron colorist, Tom Orzetsky letterer, John Byrne and Jerry Ordway, original series covers, written by John Byrne and Chris Claremont. It is the only Chris Claremont written Justice League story. It's the JLA The 10th Circle. It's essentially, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, it's DC deciding to relaunch the Doom Patrol. But how they launch the Doom Patrol is they have a vampire appear in no, it was Gotham. I think it was Gotham, and start turning some of the members of the JLA into vampires. One of the things he does is he puts Superman under his thrall. And
Batman's been a vampire like 4 or 5 times. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah.
But
Well, Batman's the one that actually has to go and find the Doom Patrol so that they can, get someone to fight the Justice League. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I thought it was great.
How many pages are there to that? How long is it?
It is 141.
Holy
Graphic
shit.
novel. Yeah, it's a pretty large collection of JLA.
So this is okay. And the collected edition is referred to as the 10th Circle. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just keeping because I want to read that as well. That's a successful pitch. Done.
Yeah. And I say, like I said, it's I one day I just got a wild hair up my ass. I'm all like, Chris Claremont, what all did Chris Claremont write? And then I found out that he did a whole bunch of like one shots or like, a couple of story series for DC, but couldn't really escape Marvel.
hey guys, I'll be right back. Someone's at my door.
Okay.
All right.
So because of that, I went and I looked up exactly what he did at DC, and yeah, this was the biggest one that stood out. He also did some really cool stuff for Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman is the only one that he did multiple stories for.
Claremont?
Yeah.
Claremont wrote Wonder Woman?
Yeah, Claremont wrote a couple of Wonder Woman stories.
I don't know. It sounds weird. Like Claremont at DC. It's just weird. Okay. Yeah. All right. No, but this JLA is well, Mustafa's like, get a roomie too. I'm just saying like, oh, okay, because it explains why Chaos is still here. It doesn't explain why the hell anything else here is still here. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna read that. Now Border Town 2 came out today. I gotta read that. I'm still knee deep in a whole bunch of Daredevil, especially because it's Miller month. And now 122 pages you said for this collection, and I definitely want to grab that. So
140, I think.
140. Fuck. So that's cool. Yeah. I love. So that's Jack's unintentional pitch, your intentional pitch, and then we will talk bad about Jack behind his back until he gets back. So what a dick, huh?
Well, yeah,
fucking guy. This
Sorry about
that. He's back.
Yeah, that was homeless guy wanting to sell me a car stereo.
Oh, nice.
Oh, dude, is it the 70s?
You weren't talking trash about you at all, man.
Sweet. I do have something else I could pitch. Here, wait, hold on. I've got let me scroll up here.
Oh, nice. Mustafa's here because, quote, he ain't got nothing better to do.
Talking about selling.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
Selling serious. How about the Warriors jailbreak?
They killed Cyrus, I hear.
Yeah. They're gonna bop their way all the way back to Coney Island.
Awesome.
Is bop a euphemism for anal sex?
Wow. I don't know, it's boof.
No, that's farting. I learned that the other day.
So, Jack, you got a pitch for us?
Yes, I do. It's one that came out today. The Lone Ranger issue 1 from Mark Russell and Bob Q. Yep. I'm not a huge Western fan, but this was really fun.
From Dynamite. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it starts off with like a land dispute between a couple of ranchers. And of course, somebody has to go and get themselves killed. And the Lone Ranger goes to mete out some justice and uncovers a conspiracy to elect someone to take over the way the borders are set up. And they're just going to let people go roughshod. So it started out really strong. I thought it was pretty fun. I'm not going to ruin too much because I'm going to do a video on this one. But I thought it was a good time. Fun issue, and I didn't feel cheated for my $4. But I don't know who Mark Russell or Bob Q are, but they did a pretty good job. And the cover's by John Cassidy. and it's very action-packed. I thought it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of gunplay, and it takes place after the Civil War, so there's references to the war between the states and stuff like that.
Nice. Okay. So, Lone Ranger from Dynamite. Because I am a fan of Westerns, as everybody can tell from All-Star Western that I pitched with the whole Hex. Yeah. So there's that. The JLA 10th Circle. You guys should read Holy Terror, if only for the art and to see just how far Miller can go when he wants to go hard, man. Like it's and what I'm sorry, Jack, what was the name of the other story that I want to read to catch up to?
A Lonely Place of Dying.
A Lonely Place of Dying. And what, it's a standalone?
No, it was part of the regular Batman books, and it crossed over to New Teen Titans because Nightwing was in the Teen Titans at the time. But it's been collected.
It's been published as a collected. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know when the last time it was. I'll look it up while you're talking.
I should really start putting the pitches after the show, because whether you guys believe me or not, because some people said that's bullshit. You know what you guys are going to pitch to each other. We don't actually.
Yeah, no. We don't share our pitches before we go live.
Nope, we are way too lazy for that. You expect way too much of us.
Why am I not presenting the covers?
Mark Russell, Jack.
Did you? Sorry, Chad. Did you guys not see the covers? I was under the impression we were.
Yeah, I could have sworn.
Well, yeah.
Are you presenting yourself again?
No. When Quiz started talking, and you're presenting right now. You're solidly presented.
There's
Lone Ranger. Right, yeah, you were presented.
Lone Ranger.
Or your screen is frozen. One of the two. Okay, no. I mean, I'm not trying to get on your case here, Pete. It's just. If I had been fucking up, and like the whole point is that we're showing the covers, so if that wasn't happening, I wanted to know. Sorry, Quiz, go ahead with what you're saying.
Mark Russell, if this is the same Mark Russell, is the author of God is Disappointed in You.
Well, that's true, but I don't know how that's related.
God is Disappointed in You is basically I have an ebook copy of that book. It's a matter-of-fact retelling of all of the stories of the Bible. It's really funny.
Oh,
really? Oh,
yes.
I know this one. Yeah, that's. I know the one you're referring to.
Yeah, I love that. Here, hon.
Here you go, Polly. You could buy Lonely Place of Dying in trade. It came out in February 1990 in trade paperback. It's like $15 on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm just presenting you right now. Yeah, this is. I was hoping it was going to have a super exciting cover, but that's got like a.
Well, the exciting covers were on the regular issues.
Like
you can see, like look at that. That's pretty sweet.
It is.
There's two.
I don't know. It's hard to get better than the customers who viewed this also viewed, and it's like a Death in the Family with Batman.
Yeah, this is really the follow up to Death in the Family.
Ooh, look at that new collected edition of Loeb and Sale Dark Victory. Ooh, great story. Anyway,
never read that one.
You really? Oh. Yeah, that's you should. So anyway, we're on to multi pitches here, and this is wrong. Damn it, we're supposed to be doing one per.
There you go. That's the cover of God is Disappointed in You. Yeah, apparently that's Mark Russell is the one that wrote that. So the guy that wrote the new Lone Ranger wrote that. I think it's all I can find.
All right, guys. So there it is. That is the episode in the can. We are going to be back tomorrow night to.
Wait, weren't you going to talk about something else?
Oh, right. So, in case you guys didn't know, the hot leak out of the very tightly kept camp around Star Wars Episode 9 is Dark Jar Jar will make an appearance in Star Wars. Episode 9.
No.
Yeah, Jar Jar is a Dark Lord of the Sith, man.
That's who Snoke was.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's who trained Snoke. I have no idea. But Dark Jar Jar will make an appearance. And
you said it was a leak. I think it was more of a anal leakage.
Yeah.
Or seepage.
It's the sort of thing. It's like, you know, how inflated must the assholes on Reddit now, you know, feel, their egos feel, given the fact that they come up with this bullshit, stupid storyline to try and make sense out of a shit character, and now they're making it canon.
What are you saying? Before it was some kind of bad rumor they started?
What? The
Redditors?
Well, no, did you not know that's where this whole Darth Jar Jar thing got started?
Yeah, of course. I've heard the old stories of Dark Jar Jar, but he's going to be
it's going to be canon. How fucking horrible must it be? Like, as if Redditors don't have an inflated ego already.
No, this is perfect because this will tank episode 9, and maybe they will listen to the fans then. And they will get their heads out of their collective asses, fire Kathleen Kennedy and Roundhead Johnson, and clean house, because the only way they're going to do that is if a major one fails. Solo obviously wasn't enough.
Well, yeah. So we were actually going to talk about Kathleen Kennedy when we come back tomorrow night. But as for tonight, that is the whole thing. Thank you very much for everyone hanging out with us, even when we got deep in the weeds and into some inside baseball. Final thoughts, as always, are visit your local comic book shops. We're talking about collected editions. Yeah, you can find used collected editions all over the place. Like A Lonely Place of Dying, a comic collection I wasn't even aware of until Jack mentioned it tonight. Rockin'. That's the kind of, or 10th Circle. That's the kind of thing you can find used at local comic book shops where you don't have to buy new stuff if you don't want to, but still support your local comic book shop. Quiz, final thoughts.
Always be looking for conventions. There's also, myriad tons of other resale shops too, not just local comic book stores, because as the industry is dying, the amount of them that are available to sell is going to be shrinking, because that's the creator's mindset for you. So places like flea markets, places like out of hole in the wall conventions, all sorts of places like that will have comic books, even used bookstores. I found a myriad ton of Chuck Dixon books at a collected one-shots, prestige formats of Chuck Dixon at a used bookstore. So, nice. If comic book stores are not your thing, or if you don't have a comic book store near you, used bookstores are always a good place to look to.
Jack?
As always, subscribe to our channels, and I miss Captain Cummings.
So do I. I think Captain Cummings did some questionable things, but I still watched the shit out of his videos. So it's he's a supervillain of the internet, man. That's all there is to it, right?
I hope he comes back.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah, so there it is, ladies and gentlemen, viewers in the present and in the future. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.
Bye. Good night, everyone.